Welcome, everybody, to Den Excelsior, episode 139. We're done with X-Men, I promise, for a hot minute. But we're back at you with Deadpool adjacent stuff, maybe. Wink, wink.
We're doing the whole Fox universe.
Yeah,
of movies.
So we're talking about Daredevil, the not the TV show, not the appearance in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, but the 2003 movie starring Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner.
And Colin Farrell.
A movie of the times, gave us Ben and Jen Part 2. So we can, a little piece of Hollywood history there. But who do we have joining us today?
I mean, you should know, but it's Clarke. It's Clarke. We have Clarke.
I was trying to build it up.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Welcome, Clarke.
Big Daredevil fan. Great to be here.
I know. I like my Daredevil shirt better than yours.
I didn't know we were all wearing Daredevil shirts.
Because you love Daredevil.
I do. He's the man without pants.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was a no-brainer for me when we were going to do this show. Clarke is actually the person who got me into Daredevil, because even though I grew up with a disability, somehow I just never bothered to read Daredevil comics until I knew Clarke. And so I think he got me to read Guardian Devil, written by Kevin Smith and drawn by Joe Quesada, I think before this movie came out.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely was before this movie.
I think I read it before this movie came out, and I became a casual Daredevil fan. And I think it was sometime after this movie that I decided to go read more Daredevil, and I ended up buying all of the back issues that Brian Michael Bendis had written. So I have the entire Brian Michael Bendis run, and it is fantastic. And then I ended up going back and reading all the Frank Miller books that have ever been done. So yeah, I ended up being a pretty damn big Daredevil fan, kind of after the fact.
He's my number 2 after Spider-Man.
Yeah, same. I agree. And I kind of like them both because they're very similar in
they're both poor.
They're both poor.
Well,
and they both like to do a nice aerial ballet throughout the city.
In most storylines,
yeah. There are times when Daredevil is quite rich.
One of the reasons why I loved Daredevil is that Matt Murdock is the fact, and not just because he's a redhead, but because it's one of the only times where I like the secret identity or the other side just as much as the superhero. So I love Matt Murdock stories. I love seeing the lawyer aspect, and I think Matt Murdock is just as interesting a character as Daredevil is.
Well, I think it's because he cheats all the time, right? He's cheating. He's cheating.
Yeah, he's cheating
in his romance. He's cheating in his profession, and he's cheating at night, right? I mean, I honestly, at night is the least cheating because they don't know he's blind.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, his disability is more ability.
His disability is questionable, but I'm not gonna sit here and piss off. Ableist? I'm not gonna piss everybody off that champions Daredevil because he's a disabled superhero. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna say he's not disabled. He's definitely disabled. It's just the framework of his power almost negates the disability. You know what I mean? It's like how James McAvoy just conveniently gets to walk whenever he doesn't want to use his.
Yes. He didn't lose proficiency, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he didn't lose proficiency. There you go. That's a good way of putting it. But we will talk more about Daredevil later throughout the thing. But I wanted the audience to know that you know it's not always the case. I'm not gonna lie. I know we got a lot of support for some of those X-Men videos that we did, but I'm not the biggest X-Men fan. I just know a lot of stuff about the X-Men. I did love the cartoon growing up as a kid, and I do have a lot of Jim Lee comics and stuff, but that comic was too soap opera for me. You know what I mean?
X-Men above or below Daredevil?
For me, Daredevil's above. Like
Okay.
I love Spider-Man and Daredevil as my top two, just like Clarke. That's where it is. X-Men's probably right below that. But I think the reason I love Daredevil so much is because it's juicy. It's like that guy is a slut, man. He is a slut. Like every
Wolverine
time
called him the biggest himbo
he is the
universe,
biggest
right?
himbo, and he's also one of the only Marvel characters that consistently turns down the Avengers whenever they ask him.
He kind of stays in his lane.
Is true.
He likes to stay in his lane, and I think it's cool, and it makes his stories work in the comics, because like a lot of times in the comics you're like, well, why doesn't this person come and help them and stuff like that? But Daredevil, he makes it very clear he doesn't like working with partners and stuff like that. You know, he doesn't like he thinks he's got Hell's Kitchen and he's got it covered, and he doesn't want anybody messing with it. You know what I mean? And it's just a few blocks in New York City, and it's his, and it's his turf. And so but yeah, I'm just saying, this time around you have two experts.
We'll talk more about
talking about this
later.
Yeah.
Yes.
So either tune out now because we're gonna be too nerdy about it, or strap in because it's gonna go far. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
I can't promise that.
It'll be fun for us.
Well, we had a big week with stuff coming out. What have you guys been up to this past week?
I'm still enjoying the Acolyte, so that probably just
I haven't watched it yet.
that probably just lost us about half our viewers right there. I like it, man. I'm
not against Acolyte. I just haven't had the time. But
I kind of feel like you are.
I mean,
a little bit, yeah. I like it. I think it's refreshing to have a Star Wars story that isn't tethered to anything. Anything. It has the freedom to be whatever it wants, and you know, I'm sure as it keeps going, it will become more and more tethered. But it's cool. I enjoy that one right now.
I've been enjoying it as well. I do understand the frustration on episode 3 because it's just somebody else different playing with your toys, and
but these toys don't exist.
I like episode 3.
Yeah.
I guess they do exist in some context, but they're still new toys.
Yeah, they're still new toys. I don't understand whose toys are they playing with.
Well, what I mean with the concept, I don't want to get too much into it, but the lore of the Force babies and
do they say the M word?
No.
No.
Oh,
but
damn.
they
Definitely not watching it.
They use pulling the strings of the Force to make a baby. So they have basically, instead of Anakin being the only immaculate Force baby conception, it's actually super easy, barely any convenience to make your own Force babies.
No, I mean, we don't know that it's super easy, but it's been done before. How about that?
It's been done before, yes. So we'll do that. Now, that being said, there's a lot of stuff that I still like about the Acolyte, and a lot of the stuff that the people don't like. I really like the action. I like the fight scenes. I like the coordination, the hand-to-hand stuff.
Yeah.
And I like seeing the Jedis in their full the full High Republic. I'm enjoying that, even though they are falling into the trope of again of the Jedi, like, oh, you must remain so detached. It's like, whoa.
I think the thing I love about it is it's like, if there's anything actually cool to come from the prequels, it's that George Lucas went there with showing you how messed up the Jedi Order kind of is, right? Because the thing that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan did you can paint that however you want, but at the end of the day, they took a kid away from his mother when he was way young, right? Like, yeah, maybe it was for the better, and we know it's not. It wasn't for the better of him, like it ended up being a horrible, horrible thing that happened to Anakin Skywalker. But that's what they do, right? They go from town to town, like hearing rumors of force sensitive children. They show up at the parents' door and they say, "Yo, we'd like to test your child." And then we'll be like, "Hey, kid, would you like to be a Jedi? It's really cool. You can have a lightsaber and everything."
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, boom, family just broken up. And that's what they do consistently all over the galaxy.
That's their whole thing.
That's their whole thing. And it's kind of messed up. And I kind of appreciate that door was opened because we never really got to see that aspect of it in the original trilogy, right? Because
Mhm.
the Jedi were already dead, and like
Yeah, they're on the way
Obi-Wan
out.
Obi-Wan
Years.
is just presented
Yeah.
as a wise old wizard who like
Yeah.
is over, caretaking for Luke and stuff. But yeah, they kind of shady, and I like exploring that and seeing, where that can go. And so that's what
No,
the Acolyte is doing.
that's
Mhm.
child snatching is a part of the Halo lore that they don't even touch on much in the games, but it's in the books a lot. But
It's in the show. It's in the show a lot. Yeah.
did that whole aspect of baby snatching justice.
Yeah.
So yeah, put more baby snatching in your shows.
I just like every time the Jedi are presented for their fallacies as well as
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Order didn't have a noble intent, but it's a problematic system that they had in place.
It's same thing with Andor's doing the same thing with the Republic. It's like these people.
Well, I think everybody knows the Republic's bad. Like that's a given. All right, we understand that. But yes, I to your point, seeing the dark side of Star Wars is fun. And maybe it's not fun for everybody, but for me, it's fun. I enjoy it. So,
Clarke, what you got this week?
I've also been watching Doctor Who, which is new with my friend Alina, who's a big Whovian, and so there's another controversial thing with it's a split. Some people liking it, other people not. I like the new Doctor.
Is it controversial
he's a lot of
for
fun.
shitty reasons or is it for acting reasons?
He's black. He's black.
Oh,
no,
for
that's
bad reasons. It's for shitty reasons.
The latest edition episode, since we're doing controversial ones this week, is the gay Bridgerton episode, which is a lot of fun. But this new Doctor is a lot of fun. I want to see where it's going. But they definitely have their points, their issues they want to get across. So in terms of it's almost sometimes there's that fine line of having the points you want to get across and the story, and sometimes the story suffers. And so we've had a few episodes where I think the story has suffered, and other ones where it's done very well. But it's both doing well and struggling. I mean, the viewership unfortunately is down, but again, that normally is, you got to get used to the new Doctor, and so I think so far so good, and keep going, and we'll see. I mean, Russell T Davies is the one who resurrected it. So been watching that, talking about that a lot.
Can I get a clarification on something you said earlier?
Sure.
Was there a gay Bridgerton episode of Doctor Who, or did you just independently watch a gay episode of Bridgerton?
No, there's a gay Bridgerton episode of Doctor Who. That is
okay.
They introduce a new character played by Jonathan Groff, who I love.
Okay.
And he and the Doctor lock lips.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the show Bridgerton.
Yeah, I was confused because I was like,
no. It takes place during the 1700s, when Bridgerton. It's totally a play on Bridgerton.
Oh, got it.
So,
Okay.
So it is a homage, It's totally in the style of Bridgerton.
Got it.
With
Cool.
Doctor Who.
So just to be clear, there are no gay episodes of Bridgerton? I'm confused. Okay.
Probably not. I don't know. I haven't watched Bridgerton.
Okay, well, call me back when there is. All right.
Okay. That's probably just a...
You've seen enough to know that this is the gay version of Bridgerton. So,
I have... Alina's the Bridgerton expert, as she is the
that's Netflix, right? Bridgerton?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm Doctor Who curious. I don't know. I didn't mean in that context, but I didn't.
I understand your context.
It's going to Comic-Con as long as I have. There's that that corner, the Doctor Who corner that I see. I walk past. I know there's a blue box that people like. There's a screwdriver.
It's bigger on the inside.
Yes, it is.
I'm
a big
there's
Doctor
a
Who
lot.
fan.
There seems like there's a lot. I wouldn't know where to start.
You know exactly where to start with season the Ninth Doctor, 2005.
Is that Tennant?
No, it's right before Tennant. It's Chris Eccleston.
That's the bad guy from Thor, right?
No.
Yes.
Yes. Thor 2.
Okay.
Thor 2. And there's one season.
I've tried watching that, and it's so rough.
It's
so rough.
Yes. But you do have to kind of get through that, and then the David Tennant is when you'll fall in love with Doctor Who.
Fair enough. Speaking of Netflix, just to throw it in there, and it's not very nerdy, but I have been geeking out on Perfect Match season 2. It's juicy. It's juicy.
Yeah, I still have to watch that. Yes.
Everybody's wife swapping. It's awesome. It's hilarious. Nick Lachey just shows up to watch the orgy. Basically, that's his job.
I met him once. We said hi.
Nice.
That's all I got. That's my Nick Lachey story. Yes.
Cool. That's a good Nick Lachey story.
Yeah.
I think unless you got anything else, we could talk about some nerd news if you want.
Well, I watched Hacks. Thanks for asking. That show's great.
Fine.
But
yeah, that show was great. The season ended, right?
I think it's all up season 3.
Yeah. It ended last week, right?
Did they all not come out at once?
No.
Oh.
I was watching it.
Hacks is great.
I was watching it every week.
Well, since we're talking about shows that we love, that I still love The Rookie. If you're a Nathan Fillion fan, you should be watching that show.
I just forgot. I did not watch the new episode of Evil today, and I do know that at the time of the recording of this show, The Boys has just come out on Amazon Prime. We have not had a chance to watch it. I promise we will have news and updates on our take for that next week.
I've only ever seen The Rookie in hotel rooms. And I like it. It's fine. I don't like it enough to watch it on my own. Like that show, Chicago PD and Fire 911, all that shit. I just don't know who that's for. Like I don't know anyone that watches those shows aside from you, Clarke.
Well, evidently it's for me.
Yeah.
It's for Clarke.
9 p.m. television, right? That's the prime time. Like
because I do watch 911. And the spin-off
whenever I catch the shows, like they're fine. They're actually well produced shows, but it's like
I love 911 because since it's based in LA and they come up with the most creative, ridiculous accidents. Like if the LA reservoir cracked and flooded downtown and the zoo animals escaped. And if a tsunami, hit us and or if they have a bouncy house that's where the Santa Ana winds pick up the whole house and blow it off a cliff.
I mean, I would judge you, but I just plugged Perfect Match season 2 on Netflix, so
exactly.
I got no leg to hand on right now.
It's they have some very creative emergencies that they have to handle.
Well, we have some potential for creative emergencies in our news. Should we get into it?
I mean, it's your segue.
Oh, you're supposed to say yeah.
Yes.
You can't do it after the fact. Alrighty. The Booster Gold TV show, part of the kind of DC revamp. As a reminder, anything DC moving forward, animated, I don't know, well, post Superman movie release, animated games, TV show, they all will be part of the same connected universe.
Yep.
There's a Booster Gold show on that roadmap, and they just got their writers this week. So Danny McBride, Jeff Bradley, John Kurasiri. You probably know them best for they're the trio that's on the Gemstones, the Marvelous Gemstones.
The Righteous Gemstones.
Righteous Gemstones. Great show on Max.
Are they the writing trio that does that show?
Yes, they are the writing trio that does that show.
Gotcha. And they're doing Booster Gold.
And they're doing Booster Gold.
And it's going to be on Max.
And it's going to be on Max.
So I'm sold. I was already sold by I was already sold by Booster Gold on Max anyways, but now it's Danny McBride is involved. It's going to be fantastic. Is he going to play Booster Gold? Because that would be awesome.
I could see like Adam with Adam Devine.
Yeah.
Do you want like a brawny Booster Gold or like a goofy Booster Gold?
I like goofy. I think it's funny. But it's fine if you want to make him buff and stuff like that. That's cool. Do it. They'll find the right guy. I mean, dude, James Gunn made Peacemaker a thing. So I have no doubts. No doubts. Yeah, that's gonna be fantastic. Promise. Well, I'll watch it.
Someone had some doubts on this Blade movie. Ian DeMange, the current director or I guess now former director of the Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali, has left that project. So
that's rough.
We are now back into another limbo of when the hell is this movie coming out?
So I heard like a week or two ago that Jordan Peele has been in talks with Marvel about a project.
That was supposedly for X-Men.
The rumor is for X-Men, which I would be down for. But I've heard the other rumor is, this. I would prefer it be for X-Men. I think that would be super awesome if Jordan Peele was directing X-Men. But I could see how they're looking for somebody to salvage this. I feel really bad. I don't understand why it's so hard to make a freaking Blade movie. Like, it's rough.
My opinion is because they keep hiring writers that haven't read the source material. They keep going for the.
They don't even need to read the source. Just watch 2 Blade movies and you're good. That's it.
If that's that.
Let me clarify. The script is still in play for this movie. The most recent.
I know that's the problem. The original, from what I remember, the original script when they started really scrapping everything, that had almost no action, and such. And again, how do you have a Blade movie without action? It doesn't work. So.
They're still set to put this movie out by the end of next year. I think that's going to happen.
That shows you how little a director actually matters to these movies.
I think it has to happen because Mahershala's, spoilers, are making another set of Jurassic Park movies, and Mahershala is going to be at least in one of those. And those things are not easy shoots, as they say. So I have faith.
I thought you were going to say it's because Mahershala ain't getting younger. He's like 50 now, isn't he?
Yeah, he looks good.
I know he looks good, but I'm just saying,
but to start a series.
Do you want you bring a Blade? You do a Blade, right? You bring Blade into the MCU. How long? I know theoretically Blade can chill in the MCU forever, right? But how long does a Blade fit in the MCU? Let me ask that question.
I think like you said it already. I think a Blade is one of those characters that's almost immortal. He's eternal, right? So like you could do future stories with him if you wanted to have an anchored character that can be around for a long time.
He could be like the Hulk, like being a lot of other stories coming in.
Except he's not CG, so that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had a final bit of news, which was a toy that was CG, that was based on a CG character, and it wasn't a problem. We're getting a Man Thing.
They're getting a Werewolf by Night branded Man Thing. This is interesting. This actually went out for pre-order today, and I know a lot of fans are not happy with this figure because he doesn't quite fit the visual style of the comic book Man Thing, but that's fine. That's because he's based on the appearance of this character in Werewolf by Night. So he is the Build-A-Figure, but with some retouched parts. So like the arms, the legs, and the head are all new pieces. So if you didn't get the Build-A-Figure, this is your chance to get a Man Thing. Or if you just liked this specific look in Werewolf by Night, I kind of love it. I think he's cool looking. I don't know about you.
Dude. He looks like a Man Thing.
He looks like a Man Thing, right? So I like it. But yeah, he's cool looking. Those are nice pictures of him too. But yeah, that's the latest Marvel Legends entry. They just sneak them in there every now and then. I don't know. Did you happen to see that there's a HasLab going on for
the Joe, or not Joe, the
Star Wars
the
cantina.
I did a lot of cups.
That's a lot of cups.
I was going to message you to do your
I have not seen
tracking
that. I'll
on
have to
them.
go check it out.
Oh, I've been doing my tracking, bro.
Oh, you gotta
don't worry
post
about
them.
it. No, I don't have to.
Get content, man.
I have been tracking it. I've been tracking it daily.
Yeah, so they're doing the cantina
for the vintage collection
with the bar, and it comes with like all the little B characters are in there that they haven't made toys of, and a shit ton of silverware and
much
dinnerware, dishware,
many cups that you will lose in your carpet. Like so many. Like it's hilarious because they're super tiny. It's for the little figures. You know what I mean? But I think it's cool. Like as a kid who grew up collecting Star Wars toys, like to have the cantina as a playset, that's pretty rad. That's pretty cool. And they have 2 price tiers on it too. Did you see that? Like there's a $400 version that's 3 walls of the cantina, and then the $500 version is an extra wall with more seats and more silverware and all that stuff. Like so you can close the whole thing. Yeah. So if you want even more accessories and a complete room. Yeah. But I am tracking it. I'll post something eventually. I'm just not going to post daily because it's just too much work. But yeah, it's going to get backed. Very much so.
And we're going to get back to our scheduled programming with our spotlight on Daredevil.
All right, we're doing this. 2003 Daredevil. Ricky, did you watch this movie in the theaters?
I don't remember. I did watch it in 2003 when it came out. But I don't think I've seen it since.
Okay, so Clarke, do you want to set the stage for
yes.
what the landscape was when this came out, and
which is important in the story? We always talk about pre-MCU and I think that is important. But this comes from Marvel selling off their big properties when they went bankrupt in the late 90s, and Sony spent all their money on Spider-Man, but Fox bought up a whole bunch of smaller characters, so to speak. Well, the X-Men was the big one that they got, which is why they started with that. But they also bought Fantastic Four, Daredevil, and Ghost Rider. So
I thought Sony did Ghost
Rider.
Sony did Ghost Rider?
Yes,
okay.
Sony did Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Columbia.
Oh, my bad.
And I think Sony did the Punisher too, right? Or I can't remember who did the Punisher.
I can't remember who did Punisher. But Punisher
New
was
Regency
much
actually did Daredevil.
New Regency, which was through Fox. It was produced by Fox. It's at some point the ownership of this movie actually transferred to Columbia, which
It
was
was
Sony.
from Fox to Columbia before New Regency acquired it in 2000.
Yes, and then Fox released the movie.
So
Yes.
I remember when the rumors were first starting, and ironically, the first rumor of who was up for Matt Murdock was not Ben Affleck, but Matt Damon. So the
That would
first,
have been a damn good movie.
yes, actually. So I was expecting Matt Damon to be Daredevil, which I thought was great for a whole number of reasons. And then when they announced that it was Ben Affleck, I was like, that is the wrong half of that duo.
Did Ben Affleck have baggage at that point?
He just wasn't
Ben Affleck had baggage as being known as not as good as Matt Damon.
Okay.
In terms of acting, his big movies were Phantoms, yo.
He was in a lot of bad movies, and he had the fortune of being friends with Kevin Smith, and so he got to be in some cool Kevin Smith movies too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say he was ever the best part of a Kevin Smith movie. Even the ones that he's the star of, he's not. Like, he's just not. So yeah, he's not on my top list of actors for sure. And yeah, I think I remember. You got to remember what this is: post Blade, post Spider-Man, and post X-Men. And post X-Men. So the bar is pretty freaking high for us at this point, right? Like,
and the excitement was they were like, we're seeing a new renaissance of comic book movies.
Yeah.
And Daredevil, unfortunately, was now put the brakes on.
Yeah. I would say this is the first movie that kind of broke my heart a little bit. And
it put the brakes, but it definitely
it started applying the brake.
It had the unfortunate job of following Spider-Man.
Yes.
And X-Men.
And X-Men, yeah.
Yeah. And
X2.
And Blade.
Yeah.
And X2. Yes.
Is this pre X2? Post X? Is this post X2?
I think it's post X2. Yeah. Was X2 2004 or 2003?
X2 was 2003.
But Daredevil was February of 2003.
Yeah, this is pre X2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sandwiched between two objectively better movies.
Yeah, two objectively better movies. It was a critical, it was a box office success though.
Yes,
it did do good. It in theaters. It came out in Valentine's Day time, where it was marketed as a romantic, action movie as well. And
they did, and there was a lot of excitement because they knew they were doing the Daredevil Elektra story,
right?
And that was hyped up. The Frank Miller, and we knew that Bullseye was going to be in it, and then Michael Clarke Duncan, putting him as Kingpin was seen as very, very smart casting.
Okay, I think I thought it was a cool casting.
I thought it was cool casting too.
But I don't think he was universally seen as it. In fact, I think that was the first instance of the horrible term that would later come to be known as race swapping. Because I know there's a lot of people, they're not my friends, but there was a lot of people that did not like who that Kingpin was.
In my circles, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
It was a good swap. So I don't remember the race swapping as being,
because the internet was definitely a thing by this point.
Yes.
And it was as evident in the movie when Kevin Smith is trolling somebody on the forums. You know what I mean? So I definitely remember finding the backlash on Michael Clarke Duncan. But to your point, you and I thought he was excellent casting for the part. Yes,
because he had the size.
Cancel proofing yourselves from.
No, I'm not cancel proofing. I'm saying I definitely remember there being backlash on Michael Clarke Duncan in 2003. For sure.
I don't doubt it. I don't
doubt there was
at all.
But I remember more of the positive, than the negative in terms of that casting. Again, because of the size, and he was really popular then.
Did you guys see this movie together?
Probably.
Probably,
Yes.
yeah.
Most likely,
So
yes.
set the stage for me. You guys watch the movie. You're hyped going in. Are you disappointed on the way out, or you're like, that was okay? What was that feeling?
It's 2003, so it's possible I didn't see it with Clarke, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm sure we talked about it.
I honestly know I was disappointed going in. Because here's the thing, man.
Because of Marco Clarke Duncan.
No. Full disclosure, I said it before the show. This reminded me how much I don't like Ben Affleck. And I think this is I knew looking at those trailers that he just wasn't going to be Daredevil for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into that movie not impressed by him.
Okay.
Now, the trick with that is I was thoroughly impressed by everyone that wasn't him. Even the fact that Jennifer Garner was playing a Greek girl named Electra Nachos and did not look the part one bit.
She spoke
Greek. She spoke Greek in the movie.
Yeah.
I forgave her. You never see the mom, conveniently, so you don't know how white she was. She probably needed to be very white because Dad's in the movie. And I just really liked Colin Farrell, even though there's a lot of cheese in this movie. It's very cheesy. They dialed it up to like beyond Sam Raimi levels, I feel like, almost, or like, I don't know.
I like how he's a silly guy. He's a little silly
Colin
goose.
Farrell had a lot of fun.
Colin Farrell clearly had fun making this movie. Michael Clarke Duncan had a blast making this movie.
Yes.
Jennifer Garner put in the damn work because she is quite buff and quite athletic in this movie, and then you have Ben Affleck, who's just the dumbest faces ever. His blind faces are so bad. Like what's weird is like, I know that this man went and read every single Daredevil comic ever to prepare for this movie. Like he really did care for it. I just wish he hit the gym a little bit more. That's all. Like I really like, and the most frustrating thing is the hindsight of it all. Hindsight is 2020 because like at the time you're like, man, maybe they thought that was enough. But go look at him as Batman.
He's 2003 buff.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Yeah.
No, because go look at Hugh Jackman or Tobey Maguire.
Hugh Jackman's not that buff in X1.
He's pretty buff in X2.
Again, we're going in sequence here.
Same year.
You get bigger. You get bigger.
No, he's still buffer than Ben Affleck was.
You got bigger.
And also, you just ignored the Tobey Maguire thing entirely.
He's also not that. He's buff, but he's not like that buff in Spider-Man.
Are you kidding me? Go look at the scene where Spider-Man flexes in front of the mirror.
I don't think he's that buff.
He's athletic buff.
Yeah, he's athletic buff. He's not like big buff.
But he's so defined. His muscles are defined. There's not a scene like that in Daredevil, even with the shower scene where he's, taking Ben Affleck did not get Hollywood ripped.
He did not look like. Yes,
for Daredevil.
Have you never seen Daredevil, bro? He is literally one of comic artists' favorite character to draw because it's literally just a human body, a super like tone physique human body. He's just a red man. So they can just draw a red man. Like the muscles are on Daredevil.
This is a good time to talk about the costume because that was a little controversial because they went
look at Daredevil. Look at all these muscles on Daredevil right here.
I saw enough muscle on Ben Affleck.
No, you didn't. You weren't watching the same movie.
I'm not gonna body shame Ben Affleck.
I just did, especially because I know that he's able to do it because he did it for Batman.
Yeah, because he had 2015 steroids to help him.
Also, did you see Jennifer Garner in this movie?
She's pretty buff.
Did you see Michael Clarke Duncan in this movie?
He's just always buff.
No, dude, he put on 20 pounds for this movie.
Extra. extra size for this, and his interviews where he talks about how much he loved doing it.
He weighed 305 when they cast him, and he put on 20 more pounds for this movie. Michael Clarke Duncan should not have lost that fight to Daredevil. All right, I'm just saying that was no. Rightfully so. Elektra did kick his ass, and I was like, yeah, that tracks. That tracks. I'll body shame him all day, but I'll also
the costume.
My problem with the costume is that if you go and look at the posters, the promotional art for that costume, he looks really badass because there's all this definition photoshopped into the suit. It's a leather suit, but functionally in the movie, there's no definition to him at all.
And they also toned down the red.
Yeah, they toned down the red as well. So he just looks like a maroon lump running around on rooftops and stuff. And it's, yeah. So,
for lack of a better phrase, I found this movie, especially when I was rewatching it, rohophobic. They avoid the red. Red phobic doesn't sound right at all.
I mean, that's just like the era. I don't want to say you can't knock him for that.
His hair is insulting as they just put a tinge of red hair color in.
Dude, his hair was purple on my TV. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, color balance.
He had anime hair in this movie.
His haircut was weird, I'll say that.
I felt even weirder for the poor kid that had to have the same purple hair.
That's true, yeah.
Like, that was just awkward.
Elektra's costume is normally red. Daredevil's costume is normally full red. Matt Murdock is an absolute redhead in the comics, and they went maroon.
Yeah, so I can actually forgive the hair thing. I know you can't because you have your own personal bias, but I can forgive the hair thing because we've learned that Charlie Cox
absolutely
performs the crap out of this character, and he doesn't dye his hair red, and it's fine. But I think watching that's what hurts this even more.
That tinge is more insulting than just not doing it at all.
Yeah, exactly. But I think also to that effect, which is really awkward, is I feel like Ben Affleck's blindness just feels wrong. It just feels wrong. I don't know, maybe it's because of the powers, I know his powers.
He's a little too show-offy with the
Well,
something's weird about it.
They went very comic booky in the action in terms of he does things that a normal human cannot do, which of course Daredevil can't, but he does things that would normally break his legs.
He's a little overhyped in the movie.
He's got great Daredevil has great agility and balance and fighting skills, but they have him jumping off
skyscrapers,
skyscrapers and landing on stuff. They have the billy clubs, which I really like in this, is that's one of the positives, except they have the billy club wire be so long that he falls the entire height of the church. Which there's no way that much wire fits in those billy clubs.
That attitude.
Yes.
With that attitude.
But however, at the time, again, they were going off. They wanted him to look more Spider-Man-y, so they have him look more Spider-Man-y. And there's the scenes of where he's jumping off skyscrapers and catching the wire. Some of that is fun. I actually really like the sonar look. I really like the scene. I really like the scene where he wakes up and first hears the drips of water and it sounds like thunder. The where he's first bombarded
when he's
with
first
his senses.
Learning.
That's was really done well. I like the fact that he sleeps in a sensory deprivation tank. That was an interesting twist.
I was going to ask about the water tank. Is that lore, or is that just for the movie?
Nah, you know what he does in the books? He sleeps in the bed and has fun smelling every woman he's ever slept with because he still has the scent of them in his bed.
He's kind of pervy in this movie.
He's kind of pervy in the comics, dude. He's a super pervo.
He kind of
and
would now be problematic.
His secret identity so quick.
He gives up his secret identity fast. Yeah.
Like,
I will say that's probably the part of him I like the most, is the part that he's just a poon hound. Like, because that is him. And there's even that fun, like that fun voicemail when he comes home, or that girl that's been sleeping
Yes.
with him for like 3 weeks or 3 months, or whatever. And she realizes it's never going to go beyond that. And it's like, that was a nice little, like, setting the scene for who this guy is, right? He's just not a commitment.
shitty person.
Yeah, he's kind of shitty. Yeah, yeah, but you can't say that because he's disabled. So no. He is kind of a shitty person, but that's it's mostly because he's driven, right? Like, it's in the way that he's crappy in the way that Batman is crappy, right? Like, Batman's
Yeah.
not, like, they're essentially, I mean,
Well,
as a reminder,
Bruce Wayne is intentionally a
as a reminder, like, two of the most, like, seminal pieces of work for these characters are both written by Frank Miller. So
Mhm.
like, Frank Miller has put his stamp on both, but unintentionally made them almost the same character in a lot of ways. So like, people's iconic versions of Batman and people's iconic versions of Daredevil, they line up pretty consistently. They're almost the same, with the exception of Daredevil just doesn't get boy sidekicks. That's just not that's not his thing. You know, he just won't do it. But yeah, no, I think there's actually a lot of good in this movie. And I'm curious, Ricky, your take too. But like, for me, I think there's a weird disconnect in some things. And one is that the CG is terrible. And you got to remember, this is post Spider-Man and post X-Men. So like, and post Jurassic Park, by the way. So like, it's really
by almost 10 years.
By almost 10 years. So it's really weird. Like, I know what you're saying, how like it's really cool to see some of the shots like pulled out of the comics, like the acrobatic stuff, the stuff with the wires, the stuff of him on the cross and everything like that.
Yeah.
But for me, the problem lies in the in between frames of those animations, right? Because like, at the end of Spider-Man, when he's doing the swinging, you could probably count like 15 different comic book poses that he does all in one continuous swing. And it's really cool. And for the first time, you get to see him fill in the frames in between each pose. And it's very fluid, right? It is very clunky in Daredevil. Like, the in-between scenes, I'm like, he's a red mess. Like, he's a red mess, and he doesn't, some of the motion doesn't make sense. Again, he's supposed to be a normal human being, right? He's not Spider-Man, like so it doesn't make sense, like some of the things he's doing, or some of the scenes just felt like cheap. Like when Elektra looks up out of the limo and sees a red blob running alongside the top of the ledge of the building, it looks terrible, man.
And they really try to do a lot with reflections. There's always reflections in his eyes, in glass, in mirrors, in the
puddles.
And I'm like, just spend the budget on the actual animation. Like, that Oregon church fight scene is disgusting to watch.
The bats. Yeah.
I can't.
I don't knock this movie because of that, because it's very of its time. And I think that, for me, that's what this entire movie was.
Is it? Because Spider-Man is before this.
It's very of its time. I think that's what makes Spider-Man great, right? Like, it's a cut above. But this movie,
okay, I see what you're saying.
It's on par with a lot of stuff that. Oh, sorry, Clarke. Good.
This movie felt like a budget Spider-Man to me when I watched it. It felt like it was trying to be Spider-Man without as big a budget.
Yeah.
I mean, you have these outliers in the decades, right? Spider-Man, The Dark Knight, Infinity War, like, or even Black Panther. Like, they're cuts above of what they're amongst. But for me, this movie is on par with what most of the other things we got of that era. And watching this movie, I you don't like when I say it's fine, but it was fine. It was fun. I had fun with the movie.
I'm just saying, Iron Man came out 5 years after this.
I cut still above, had fun with the movie. Yeah,
with the rest.
But something I want to bring up just real quick, because we talked about it earlier. I just want to tell you a few quick things about the director's cut. First of all, Fox executive Tim Rothman said when he saw it, you have to cut 30 minutes out of it, which is why it's a short movie. It's a big chunk. The director's cut's only 2 hours long, so like the whole movie they cut out a lot. Tim Rothman also is famous for making the decision to seal Deadpool's mouth in Wolverine Origins.
Cool.
Same
Like
guy.
this guy. Good guy.
So in the scene where Daredevil's getting into the sensory deprivation, and he hears a woman being attacked, but he knows he can't save everyone. And I do like that scene because it's the frustrating part about superheroes. Superman can't save everyone. Daredevil, he's got to sleep at some, but he still hears it, and he has to shut it off. And like that is unfortunately, as Dennis says, Ben Affleck can't act that well enough, but it's a well written scene. But that girl is a whole side plot. And this is where it's funny because it actually takes very similar to the Netflix Daredevil, in that it has a character who gets framed for that murder, who wakes up not knowing, with the murder weapon in his hand, not knowing how he got there.
Like Karen. Yeah.
It's just like Karen. It's very interesting that it's a similar plot, and that's with Coolio, and it has. He plays the guy. No, it's Coolio.
You lost me at Coolio.
Sorry, that's who it is. Back in 2003, it's Coolio. And they have a lot of courtroom scenes, and normally, as you say, Daredevil cheats, because he listens to people's heartbeats to see if they're lying, and the police detective that he knows is crooked. He can't tell that he's lying. His heartbeat doesn't change, and it frustrates him like crazy until he finally confronts him and finds out that he has a pacemaker, which is why his heartbeat doesn't change when he's lying.
That's pretty cool
and stuff.
Yeah, that makes it better for sure. But I think at the end of the day, like the problem, like my fundamental problem with this movie is like, when your titular character is not the most interesting character in this movie, that's a problem. You know what I mean? And I think Ben Affleck just undersells the coolness of Daredevil relatively compared to Kingpin, Bullseye, and Elektra, who really, really like eat up every scene that they're in, right? Like they really do.
Yeah, I mean that's my take on it. I think was, if this movie was written a little different, you keep everything the same for the most part, just tweaks here and there, I think you got a much better movie, or at least a much a better remembered movie.
Yeah,
but I'll concede with your point that Ben Affleck is definitely the weakest link of this cast. I mean, hell, Foggy, John Favreau, like,
he's just doing happy before he's happy, right?
You got, and then you get Kevin Smith in there, he's doing his own little.
Kevin Smith ate that scene, even if it's just one scene. You know what I mean? Like Joe Pantalonia is awesome. Like, I was joking with Frank that I bet you even Joey Pants had a better body under that trench coat than Ben Affleck did. Everybody in this movie is pretty good except Ben Affleck, and that's painful. That's really painful.
And there's a little bit of ham with everyone, and he doesn't subscribe.
If that would have been Matt Damon, just think if that would have been Matt Damon.
But
that's always been my thought.
I have one really other big nitpick with the movie, but it's the choice they made, right? It's kind of like I kind of compare this to, like, when we got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, it was almost perfect, right? But we know those organic web shooters were like a weird concession that he likes to say is because the studios didn't feel like the audiences could accept that Peter Parker also made these things, right? And then, only a few years later, we get a movie where he does it. I'm kind of really annoyed at this Daredevil movie that there's no freaking ninjas in it, and that he is not a ninja, and that the second his dad dies, it just fast forwards to now he's Daredevil. But like, the reality is, there's a blind ninja that finds him and trains him for his whole freaking life.
Correct. And lost him not having stick.
It would explain the killing in the beginning of the movie a little bit more.
Right.
He murders a dude.
He murdered a dude. He murdered a dude, and it just kind of went off the rails, pun intended, in that moment. Like, because
when I watched it though, I got the feeling, instead of originally I got the murder vibe. This time I'm like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. He just wants
Yeah,
you
but
to die.
that's not the
He,
same thing as saying you see those lights coming. That's
Yeah.
the C train. That's not the same thing,
And
Clark.
then he left his fucking fire signature.
Hey,
I know. What was that? He poured
Yes.
gasoline in the shape
Yeah.
of two D's.
Side note: this
Yes.
movie, I recreated that scene in my youth, and I have since I burned all the hair off my arm.
Oh God.
And
It
I
is
I cannot-
hard.
It hasn't healed.
I bet the special effects guys took hours to make those 2Ds.
Yeah, but you're right, Ricky. Like everybody else in this movie is embracing the camp or the cheese of it a little bit more than Ben Affleck is, right? And I think that's the jarring part of this movie. But like, I would have really appreciated that, like, and then a blind ninja came and trained me. Like that would have made it more fun. Like it wouldn't even have to have been a lot of extra. But like, Stick could have just been there to teach him ninjutsu. Because like I have a problem with him not being a ninja. I have a problem with Elektra just having different senseis. Like I kind of wanted just more. Like that's the most interesting thing about these characters is like they're freaking ninjas,
Yeah.
And so like that's so weird that they're not ninjas in this movie. But it did make me have to forgive them for his clunky athleticism because I'm like, well, I guess he's not a ninja, like so. That's
at Electra's dad's funeral, right? They have the funeral, and Electra's like, I have nowhere to go. Like, aren't you a billionaire?
I know, right?
Like,
Yeah,
aren't you?
I know, but
Super
then,
rich.
but then, wake me up inside. That's you get that scene. That's the scene. That's the
It's a
whole
good
scene of the
soundtrack.
movie. It's a
It's a
soundtrack.
pretty good soundtrack.
It's a soundtrack. It's funny.
It's a 2003 soundtrack.
It is. It's a 2003 soundtrack. I gotta say though, like at the end of the day, I think their unwillingness to embrace the really fantastical parts of the Daredevil universe are kind of what hurts this movie for me and makes me enjoy the movie we're going to talk about next week, which is Elektra. I know I'm in a small minority of people who prefer Elektra, but like, dude, after the performance Jennifer Garner gave us in this movie, I was down. I was like, yeah, let's do another one without Ben Affleck. That sounds great. Let's do that, and so yeah, I think it's hard for me to like this movie as much as Elektra because seems.
Was it better or worse than you'd remember?
It was worse than I remember. It was worse, just because like the CG is bad.
I actually liked it better than I it's like a sandwich. I used to dislike it more, but this time I appreciated kind of more of the homages that they were doing, except I still feel the same way about Ben Affleck. As you said, he's the weakest link of this.
You don't,
but
you tell that they care.
I thought I would. Yes,
it's made with love. Is it made well? But no. But is it made with love? I think I can say yes.
Oh, it's definitely made with love because there's a billion references to all the most iconic people that contribute to the Daredevil legacy.
All the Daredevil writers,
the artists, everybody is name dropped throughout that movie because it was made with love. Mark Steven Johnson, he did the job he could. He did at celebrating the 20th anniversary, like last year. He did go and say, like, look, this is what it was. Like, I made this movie out of love, and in all honesty, I probably put too much in. Like, I wanted Bullseye, I wanted Elektra, I wanted all these things, and then Fox said, "Hey, cut 30 minutes of this movie and make it a love story," and that's what he had to do with it. So, like, I definitely believe that this movie was made with a lot of love. It's just, I think it dies in the edit. I think it dies in the edit, and I think
the director's cut is better.
And then I think it also dies with the lead actor too.
Yeah.
Well,
that's not going to fix it.
We will end it right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's our take on 2003's Daredevil. As Dennis alluded to, thanks, Clarke, for joining us. As Dennis alluded to, we're talking about Elektra next week. So, with that, true believers, enough said.